This is the Verzaska River in the Swiss Alps. As you can see, it's flowing with clear, fresh water. And if you know anything about joints, this is how our joints are supposed to look, with clear, cooling fluid rushing between the gaps that keeps them smooth and hydrated. Unfortunately, so many people's joints, especially as they get older, look more like this: a dry, cracked, and hot wasteland. It's no wonder then that top scientists from places like Harvard University now agree that the real culprit behind most joint problems actually has very little to do with cartilage or wear and tear as we've been led to believe. Instead, it all comes down to what's called joint drought, where all of the usual cooling, lubricating fluid in your joints begins to dry out, leaving behind irritating sediment, bubbling, oozing chemicals, and festering waste that makes joints feel sore, stiff, and uncomfortable. Once you understand the reality of this drought, it becomes clear why so many people, especially seniors, find themselves so stiff they can hardly get out of bed in the morning, climb stairs without discomfort, stand or walk for long periods of time, or even do simple tasks like opening jars or gripping large packages. Yet as painful as this reality is, new research shows that it's actually remarkably easy to restore this drought back to its original state. And it all comes down to an ultra-simple, science-backed 5-second joint remedy. One that may have the potential to restore the swampy, sludge-filled chemical wasteland inside your joints back to a clean, clear, free-flowing river, hydrating your stiff cartilage, soothing and cooling sore joints, and allowing you to move, bend, and twist without any discomfort. That's why I'm so glad that you found your way to this presentation, because no matter how hopeless your joint problems might seem now, the simple, natural, and safe 5-second joint remedy I'm about to reveal has brought new hope and a new lease on life to more than 200,000 everyday folks, like Darwin from Muskegon, Michigan, who wrote in to say, "Thank you. This is the reason that I'm still driving a manual shift 10-speed semi-truck with a bad left knee at age 77. And Robert from Islip Terrace, New York, who said, "I'm an 81-year-old Marine. They told me I need new knees, so I tried this, and the second month the pain is gone. My knees are shot, but no pain. I drive a flatbed tow 7 days on and jump up and down all day, and I can't believe it. Thank you. I tell everyone I meet I don't have to hang on to something to get up anymore." And one of my personal favorites, Scott from Royal Oak, Michigan, who said, "I was getting hyaluronic acid shots in my knee every 6 months, trying to avoid surgery for about the last 2 years. After starting this, I've not had to go back for another round of shots, and I've not had shots in about 10 months. I'm amazed at how well this has worked for me. I live in a 2-story home and climb steps several times a day and walk my dog at least a good 1.5 miles 5 or 6 times a week." Incredible, right? Hi, my name is Dr. George Karanastassis, and before we go any further, let me address the elephant in the room. If you're like most of my clients, then you've probably already heard all of the claims before and already tried so many of the other so-called solutions that are out there. Stuff like glucosamine, chondroitin, turmeric, or MSM. If any of those have worked for you, great. But if you're like most of the people I work with, then I already know that those solutions only left you feeling more disappointed and frustrated than when you started them. Which is why I want to be crystal clear that what I'm talking about here is unlike anything you've ever seen or heard before. It's not based on wishful thinking or science fiction, but on real, rigorous science. It's a solution that's protected by multiple patents, backed by more than 8 clinical trials, and supported by multiple scientific studies from places like Harvard and Cambridge University. Which is why it's so important that you pay close attention to everything I'm about to say. Because as a doctor for more than 19 years, I've seen firsthand the destruction caused by joint problems in the lives of so many people. I've seen how it debilitates them, how it cruelly robs you of everyday joys right at the moment when you should be enjoying life the most. How it forces you into the sidelines of your own life. How it makes even simple tasks feel like almost impossible feats of endurance. Or how it can make you feel old before your time, forced to give up everything you love most, like golf or hiking or afternoon walks with your spouse. Finally, I've seen how the constant soreness and discomfort drains your battery, saps your energy, and steals your joy for life little by little. So I'm glad that you're here, because you're in the right place. No matter what you've been told or led to believe in the past, I believe there could be a simple solution to many folks' joint problems. And it's so powerful that I truly believe it could change your life forever, just like it has for so many others. Literally, in just 1 week from now, you could find yourself waking up and climbing out of bed without any soreness for the first time in years. You'll walk down the stairs to your kitchen with ease, and as you sip your morning coffee and plan your day, suddenly, every possibility is open back up to you. Maybe you get back to digging around in your backyard garden, or spending the day playing with your grandkids at the park, or cooking a large meal for family and friends, or finally planning that vacation with your spouse because you know that this time you'll actually be able to enjoy it. Think about how good it would feel to be more independent, self-sufficient, and free to move in your own body again. That's the reality that could be waiting for you inside this video. And it doesn't matter whether you have soreness in your knees, ankles, hips, shoulders, hands, or anywhere else. I promise that this solution is something you're going to want to try. I put the entire weight of my reputation behind that claim. And once you see the simple science behind this solution for yourself, I'm sure that you'll 100% agree. So give me just 3 minutes and I'll make it all clear for you. I'll explain why this joint route I mentioned earlier is one of the real reasons behind most people's stiffness and soreness. And I'll explain how this ultra-simple 5-second remedy I mentioned could potentially rejuvenate your joints' natural fluids by more than 1000%, according to one in vitro study, hydrating stiff joints and relieving years of soreness in just days. Plus, I'll tell you about the Harvard scientists who prove that wear and tear is nothing more than a myth, even if you've seen it on an X-ray. And I'll reveal the #1 hidden cartilage disorder most people have no idea about, as well as how to protect yourself from it. All that and more is coming up right now. So please, pay close attention, silence any distractions, get comfortable, and take notes if you have to. Because we're about to get started in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Like I said, my name is Dr. George Karanastasis, and I hope you won't mind me taking a second to explain who I am and why I'm so passionate about what I'm about to share. I graduated with my medical degree from Semmelweis University more than 19 years ago. Shortly after that, I found myself working as a research fellow in Boston at the Harvard-affiliated Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center. It's here that my story really begins. See, by all accounts, I had a bright future as a doctor ahead of me. My parents were proud. People respected me. It felt like I was actually making a difference. But soon, that illusion crumbled. It didn't take me long to figure out that everything I'd been taught in medical school did little more than treat symptoms without ever getting to the root of actual problems. It was all pills, not diets. Surgeries, not lifestyle changes. My colleagues laughed whenever I brought up the idea of using natural remedies, which just didn't sit right with me. I mean, if everything we've been taught to believe in medical school was true, why is it that people are getting sicker than ever? Soon, my suspicion turned to frustration, which turned to outright anger. I hated what I saw. It didn't make any sense to me, and I didn't feel proud about the work I was doing, so I quit. It was the hardest decision of my life. I mean, as the son of immigrant parents, becoming a doctor was practically my destiny, so throwing it all away was like committing an act of heresy. But I didn't care. Deep down, I knew there had to be a better way. So I devoted the next 2 decades of my life to obsessively exploring every nook and cranny of human health until I found natural solutions for people's actual problems. It was slow going at first, but you know what? Eventually, this wild gambit actually paid off, and I've since been blessed to have helped over 600,000 people around the world with everything from weight loss to low energy to blood sugar problems and more. Finally, I felt good about the work I was doing. Finally, it felt like I was making a difference. But all of that changed when I met Linda. See, Linda was one of my clients. She was 63 years old, a wife, a mother, and a grandmother of 4. Her whole life she'd always had this bright, bubbly personality, just one of those people in love with life. So when she finally retired from her long 40-year career, she was ready to enjoy life to its fullest and fill it with new adventures and memories with her family. She had dreams of growing her beautiful gardens, playing with her grandkids, hosting big family dinners, and going on all those overseas trips she'd been dreaming of for years. But all of that changed when a nasty skiing accident left her with a shattered ankle. She recovered, of course, but nothing was ever the same after that. It started with a twinge here and there, or just a little more stiffness than normal when the weather got cold. But over time, it got worse. Soon, her ankle became so stiff she had trouble walking, and it was so sore that she couldn't stand or walk for very long. She began to feel restricted, and the constant throbbing drained her energy. So even though she hated the idea of taking painkillers all the time, what choice did she have? She needed something just to feel almost normal again. So she began to take fistfuls of pill each day to numb the aches. She knew they were destroying her body. Even the over-the-counters were pounding her kidneys, liver, and wrecking her stomach. But what could she do? She wasn't ready to just give up on life. Sooner or later, she imagined that she would end up calling up her doctor, begging him for something stronger. She imagined him treating her like some junkie seeking out her next fix. Already, it seemed like he secretly doubted her. At night she'd lie awake, too tormented to sleep from the soreness that spread through her body, wondering if she'd be able to live a normal life again. To make matters worse, all of her other joints like her knees and fingers and shoulders began to ache as well. It was like every other past injury was coming back to haunt her. She felt like her body was decaying, like she was speeding headfirst into old age and a total loss of independence. She worried that one day even simple tasks were bound to be impossible. Her garden began to wilt, nothing more than an eyesore in her backyard, and the beautiful wall art decorating her home became a bitter reminder of how frail she'd become, no longer able to enjoy crafting as it would cause her fingers to flare up too much. The over-the-counter pain meds weren't working and she worried she'd have to run to something stronger. What would happen if those stopped working too? Already, Linda knew that she was no longer the happy-go-lucky person that others wanted to be around. The loneliness and the isolation began to terrify her. And the worst part of all was that her husband, the one person she could always count on for support, no longer understood her. Deep down she began to suspect that maybe he thought she was just making it up all in her head, that she was just lazy. So on top of all of her stress, now she was constantly trying to prove herself to him. She was trying to prove herself to everyone. All of her suffering, the literal hell she was going through, was invisible to them, and she simply couldn't make them understand. And at this point, food was her only comfort, her only way of coping. So it's no wonder why she began to eat more, exercise less, and put on more weight that only made her joint problems worse and plummeted her self-esteem. It felt cruel. It felt like the universe was playing some sick joke on her, like all those years of working so hard to be able to finally sit back and enjoy her golden years were all for nothing. And it all came to a head when her doctor finally looked her in the eyes and said, "Linda, it's time to let go. You're never gonna have your old life back." The thought terrified her. She felt like she was completely out of options. I hear stories like the one from Linda all the time. I want to be strong, they say, but I just don't think I can handle it anymore. So I made a promise to myself that I would do everything in my power to help women like Linda, but I knew it wasn't going to be easy. I remember taking patients like Linda by the hands, looking into their eyes, and promising them that I would do everything in my power to help. But after they would leave, I'd begin to worry. I mean, if people like Linda had already tried just about everything, what else could I do? Truthfully, I wasn't sure. All I knew was that I couldn't fail now. I had to keep my promise. So I went to work doing what I do best, finding the needle in the haystack solution to people's complex problems. But over and over, it felt like I kept running into the same tired old answers. Sore joints are just a part of old age, and outside of risky surgery, there's nothing you can do about it. In other words, deal with it. But I couldn't accept that. I mean, how could I look into the eyes of people like Linda's and tell them that their situation was hopeless? No, I had to keep pushing. So I did. I spent night after bloodshot night painstakingly poring over every study I could find, every textbook entry, every news article, anything that I thought could help. I was so obsessive that my wife began to worry about my health. But I couldn't give up. I felt close, like if I just kept pushing, I would find a solution. But after several more weeks at this pace, all I had to show for my effort was a pair of thick, dark purple rings hanging beneath my eyes. Truthfully, I felt right on the verge of giving up. But that's when I made a breakthrough that would change everything for me. I came across a little-known research paper that flipped everything I thought I knew about joint health right on its head, and one that ultimately led me to a remarkable discovery. It was a paper published by Harvard University, and inside, it proved that our joint problems actually aren't caused by wear and tear, something which I'd been taught to believe. Heck, it's something that many doctors still think it's true. Either bad joints are caused by overuse in old age, or they're caused by damage from an injury. While it's obviously true that our joints tend to get worse with age and usually hurt most right where we've had an injury, that's only part of the story. See, these Harvard researchers actually spent years flying around to different museums looking at the joints of our ancient ancestors. Specifically, they wanted to see if their joints were as bad as ours, especially as they got older, and what they found shocked them. Even in their old age, our ancestors' joints were far healthier than our own, which is weird, right? Considering all of the bending, running, twisting, and jumping they did, as well as the fact that they didn't have any of the access to modern medicine that we do. You'd expect their joints to be worn ragged, right? Wrong. Their joints were strong, healthy, vibrant, even youthful. This discovery led the researchers to conclude that the real cause of joint problems couldn't be due to wear and tear. Instead, all of their research suggested that our ancestors' joints were so healthy because they moved a lot more. In other words, more movement is the answer, not less. But obviously, it's easier to say this than to actually do it. I mean, when you're already struggling to get out of bed, walk up a flight of stairs, or just stay active enough to clean up your home, the last thing you want to be told is to start moving more. So I wasn't about to just go tell my clients to go on long walks or hit the gym. No, I had to dig a layer deeper. I needed to understand exactly why movement was so important for joint health, and specifically, I needed to know what the real problem was. That's what set me down the path to discover what I now believe to be the #1 cause of stiff, sore joints. It all began with a fundamental mindset shift. See, for the longest time, I'd believed that our joints and cartilage were just like packing material in our joints. Yeah, they bend and twist, but really, they're just there as padding for our joints. However, the truth is far more complex. Our joints are really an active system. They're packed with nerves that communicate with each other, transport vital nutrients throughout our body, and even transmit neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine that can dictate how good we feel. Basically, our joints are way more like superhighways than packing peanuts. But here's the problem. Our joints can only function properly when they're properly hydrated. Specifically, they can really only function well when our synovial fluid, the fluid that surrounds our joints and makes a gap between our layers of cartilage, is healthy, clear, and flowing like a river. Unfortunately, as we get older, especially if we find ourselves sitting for long periods of time, this flowing river begins to dry out and fill up with dirty sediment, leaving them looking more like a sludge-filled swamp than a flowing river. And once this happens, the effect is disastrous. Collagen strands get stuck together like sticks in a beaver's dam, making us feel stiff whenever we stand up. Sediment and waste begins to fill up the once clear river, irritating and scraping against our cartilage. Little gurgling bubbles form and pop in our fluid, making our joints sound like a bowl of Rice Krispies on loudspeakers every time we move. And finally, tiny little chemical starts to pool up in the sludge between our joints. In fact, a 2019 in vitro study from Cambridge University found that as we age, our joints can become overrun with a tiny molecule known as TRPV1. If you don't know anything about TRPV1, it's the exact same molecule that makes chili pepper so spicy. So that hot, irritating burning sensation in your joints? Yeah, it's actually caused by the exact same chemical that makes your mouth burn when you bite into a spicy pepper. Is it any wonder people's joints feel so bad? I mean, just imagine this festering, dirty, chemical-filled swamp bubbling in between your knee joints or fingers or elbow. I know the imagery is pretty intense, but it's really important that you're able to see and feel what's really going on deep inside your joints, because once you do, the solution actually becomes shockingly clear. And I know that's a big claim, but I'm about to prove just how true it is. See, if the problem with our joints is that the fluid between them begins to dry up, slow down, and gradually turn into a rotting swamp, then the solution is simply to rejuvenate this fluid so it can return to its normally clear, flowing state. If you do that, you can soothe and cool any soreness. You can restore joint mobility like running a stiff, dry sponge under water, and you can create a smooth, slippery surface for your joints to glide across each other effortlessly. Makes sense in theory, right? But how exactly do we do that? Well, the first thing you might think is that you can just rehydrate your joints by drinking a lot more water. And while I'm certainly not going to tell you that drinking water is bad for you, when it comes to your joints, it doesn't really help. You can drink all the water you want, but unless you actually get it into your joints, it's not going to do much other than send you to the bathroom. So, unfortunately, drinking water by itself isn't enough to hydrate your joints. The next thing you might turn to is something like injections. These restore some of the fluid between our cartilage that keeps our joints hydrated, and they can help a little. But obviously, there's some problems with injections. For one, relief, if there is any, typically only lasts about 4 to 12 weeks. This means you have to keep going back every few months. And considering that injections can cost as much as $800, obviously this isn't a real possibility for most people. Plus, I don't know anybody who gets excited by the idea of sticking needles in their knees every few months. But beyond the horrifying idea of constantly having to get these injections at such a ridiculous cost, the biggest issue with them is that they're simply incapable of making your joints produce new fresh fluid that can wash out all the waste gathered in your joints. The only way you can do that is by stimulating the cells inside your joints to create new fluid. Once you do, it's like opening up a closed dam, flushing your joints with fresh fluid that can soothe, hydrate, and restore your joints' natural lubrication. But just how do you do that? Well, at first I couldn't find anything, but eventually I stumbled across the research of a group of Spanish scientists who'd secretly spent the last decade trying to solve this problem of rejuvenating the synovial fluid, and who, after nearly a decade of frustration, finally made a breakthrough, discovering a simple method to rehydrate our joints and restore joint function by nearly 1,000%. Seriously, 1,000%. Not only that, but this method has since been proven in more than 6 human clinical studies, which is something that's virtually unheard of in the scientific world. So I knew they had found something special. And once I actually dove into the details of the studies behind this breakthrough, my mind was blown. One in vitro study measured the change in the synoviocytes, the cells that actually make new joint fluid in the first place. They found that this breakthrough actually increased their activity by a staggering 1,000%, which could translate to almost 10 times the amount of new, fresh joint fluid. And you can actually see the change here. All of those dark spots on the right show all of the new synoviocytes busy at work producing fresh new synovial fluid. Think about that. Instead of having to get needles stuck in your already sore joints every 3 months, this study suggests you can literally force your body to make its own fresh joint fluid, lubricating stiff joints, hydrating old, dry cartilage, and creating a slick, slippery surface for your joints to glide effortlessly across each other. But that's really just the beginning, because another study in 20 human subjects showed that it led to a staggering 504% increase in feelings of relief from joint discomfort when compared to a placebo. See that red line? That's the line that measures the feeling of relief experienced by patients who use this breakthrough, and it shows that in just 8 weeks, these patients experienced a 504% increase in that feeling of relief. What's more, an amazing 75% of the subjects reported experiencing relief like this. But that's still not all, because on top of giving subjects greater feelings of relief and helping joints produce more of its own lubricating synovial fluid, this same breakthrough also helped regenerate muscle cells by up to 29%. Why is this so important? Well, all of this new muscle around our joints worked to lock them into place, almost like a natural brace or sleeve. For most of us, as we get older, we begin to lose this muscle, which leaves our joints vulnerable to injury. But with this extra layer of protection, you're able to protect them like a fortress and strengthen them for daily use. So what exactly is this breakthrough called? Well, it's a patented compound that goes by the name of Mobility. But don't just go look it up on Google. See, because Mobility is a patented compound, its designers are very protective about who they let get access to it, so it can actually be pretty challenging to find. But even more importantly, as powerful as Mobility truly is for joint health, when you combine it with 2 other clinically studied ingredients, the benefits you get could be even greater. Let me explain. Remember how earlier I mentioned that damaged cartilage isn't always the culprit it's made out to be? Well, while this is true, it's still important. And once you rejuvenate your synovial fluid, the next most important thing to focus on is protecting your cartilage. Why? Well, because for most people suffering from joint problems, it's at risk. See, as the synovial fluid in our joints begins to dry out and our joints become filled with dirty waste, our cartilage becomes starved for vital nutrients, and all of that sediment grinds up against its surface. Over time, this causes the surface of the cartilage to start chipping away like an old coat of paint on the side of a house, which exposes what's called your inner cartilage, and this creates a new problem. Because your immune system doesn't recognize this inner cartilage, since it's always been covered, it treats it like a foreign invader and attacks it, breaking it down even more. This creates a vicious cycle. Your cartilage breaks down, which exposes your inner cartilage, which your body doesn't recognize, so it goes into attack mode. Pretty soon, your cartilage is really worn down to the point that your bones begin to rub up against bone. So after restoring your body's natural synovial fluid, the next thing anyone suffering from joint problems should focus on is how to stop your body from breaking down its own cartilage. If you don't, then your problems will likely only become worse, which is exactly where this next breakthrough ingredient comes in. It's a trademark compound known as Collagen N2, and it works to stop your body from breaking down its own cartilage, while at the same time relieving soreness from your joints and allowing them to become more flexible. In one clinical study published in the Origin Journal of Medicine, Collagen N2 not only led to a reduction in stiffness and greater overall function, but it also led to a staggering 50% reduction in discomfort while walking. Imagine cutting your soreness in half, all from just this one ingredient. Another clinical study showed that collagen N2 slowed down the progression of stiffness in the hands of subjects by more than 70% compared to placebo, which is pretty remarkable, right? Yet, as amazing as all of the science behind these two ingredients proved to be, I still wanted to go one step further to create the perfect joint solution. And look, I know we just covered a lot of science, but stay with me here, because this breakthrough ingredient might be the most exciting one yet. And I want to make sure that you see all of the proof for how these ingredients work yourself. That way, you don't ever have to second guess if they're real or if they'll work for you. The final ingredient is another patented compound known as Aprisflex. It comes from the resin of the Boswellia serrata tree, which is also known as frankincense. But Aprisflex isn't just some regular kind of frankincense you can buy in the store. No, it's what's known as next generation frankincense. And that's not just a made-up term either, because Aprisflex truly is a revolutionary breakthrough in the science of joint health. See, frankincense has been used for thousands of years in ancient medicine, especially when it comes to joint problems. And when scientists investigated how it works, they discovered an active compound known as ACPA. Now, while ACPA is insanely powerful, it has two problems. One, most normal frankincense only contains about 2 to 3% ACPA. Two, most of this ACPA found in frankincense isn't very bioavailable, meaning that our bodies can't absorb it very well. Which is why I was so excited when I discovered that a team of researchers found a way to increase the concentration of ACPA from 2% to an astonishing 30%. That's more than 10 times stronger. What's more, these same scientists also found a simple way to increase the bioavailability of ACPA by 51%, meaning that our bodies can absorb it way better. Think about that. If frankincense works so well on its own that it was used in the ancient medicines of the Greeks, Egyptians, and Chinese, imagine how much stronger it would work in this super concentrated form. This is exactly the kind of stuff that gets me so excited. It's exactly what science should be doing, taking natural, plant-based compounds that have been used for thousands of years and using science to make them stronger and more effective. So that's why I call Aprisflex a true revolution in joint health. But okay, that all sounds good, but what about the actual results? Well, one 90-day double-blind randomized and placebo-controlled study looked at the effect of Aprisflex in 57 patients and found that it led to a 29% reduction in stiffness, a 30% reduction in soreness and discomfort, and a staggering 38% improvement in mobility. Then, yet another study of 59 patients showed a 54% improvement in physical function, a 50% reduction in stiffness, and a 65% reduction in soreness and discomfort. Think about that. For so many people, this one ingredient can mean the difference between being able to walk upstairs easily again, take up old hobbies, and wake up feeling limber instead of stiff. So now I knew that I finally had my hands on 3 breakthrough ingredients that were actually proven to help restore function and provide relief to your joints, whether in your ankles, knees, hips, shoulders, or hands. And remember, these are all clinical studies done with humans, not lab rats. So given just how impressive each of these compounds are on their own, imagine how powerful they would be if you combine them. I mean, you have 3 trademark ingredients, 2 of them which are patented, with more than 8 clinical studies between them. Mobili, which floods your joints with new fresh fluid that keeps them hydrated and lubricating. Collagen N2, which helps stop the breakdown of cartilage and relieves stiffness. And Aprisflex, which takes the raw power of the ancient medicinal Boswellia extract and supercharges it to improve mobility, soothe discomfort, and improve overall physical function. Obviously, I was excited to put these ingredients to the test. After all, that's the only way I know for sure that these ingredients worked as powerfully as all of the studies suggested they would. Unfortunately, when I looked for any solution that combined all of these 3 breakthrough ingredients together, I just couldn't find anything. I don't know if it's because the ingredients were still so revolutionary that no one had heard of them before, or because they're more expensive than some cheap blend of glucosamine and turmeric, or because the companies that manufacture them are incredibly picky about who they work with. I don't know exactly why, but I can tell you that nobody had thought to combine all 3 like this before. So I set out to be the first. It took months of planning and negotiation and logistics to put it all together. Luckily, I was able to lean on my background in medicine, all of my connections with some of the best manufacturers in the world. I was able to finally combine these 3 breakthrough ingredients into the most powerful joint solution in the world. One that's now been proven by more than 200,000 men and women whose stories you'll hear in just a moment. and it's why I'm so proud to be the first to present it to you. I call it Arthro MD. Arthro MD is the only triple-action joint health solution that's free from dangerous side effects while soothing aching joints and restoring mobility. Just take one tiny capsule first thing in the morning and let science do the rest. It contains just 3 trademarked breakthrough ingredients supported by more than 8 clinical studies. This means no filler ingredients and no BS added to try and make it seem more effective. No, we didn't need any of that because Arthro MD actually works. That's the power of what happens when you look at the actual science and use state-of-the-art ingredients that have been proven to work with real people. Go figure, right? And since its release, Arthro MD has been responsible for the relief from more than 200,000 other people. People like Ron Dakota from Newport, New Hampshire, who wrote in to say, "Before I started using this product, I thought I was going to have knee surgery. I started taking it before my summer business picked up and was able to get through the summer without surgery. I stopped taking it for a couple of weeks and realized some of my aches and pains were back. I'm now taking it again and those aches and pains are gone. I would definitely recommend taking this product." Isn't that amazing? Now I'm guessing that you're probably ready to try this natural solution for yourself. And you should be. Arthro MD allows you to stop soreness fast, kicking in as little as 5 days. It's virtually free from side effects. You don't have to worry about causing more damage to your body or getting addicted, and you can keep taking it long term as your health continues to improve. Imagine opening your eyes first thing in the morning, fully rested and fresh since there was no discomfort to keep you up all night. You toss the covers aside, quickly get up and swing your legs over the edge of the bed with one smooth movement. Your feet touch the ground. Your joints are a tad stiff, but overall, they're better than they've been in years. No cracking, snapping, or creaking. You make your way to the kitchen and sit down to enjoy your cup of coffee. The smile on your face stretches ear to ear. It's great to feel young again, you think to yourself. Gone are the days when soreness ruled you, when the constant aches robbed you of everything you held near and dear. You finally have your life back again. No more struggling to get through the day. No more having to paint a smile on your face in front of others, even though the hurt is killing you on the inside. And you no longer stress about simple tasks like climbing stairs, buttoning your shirt, opening jars, or twisting doorknobs. You're active, independent, even taking up hobbies again you were once forced to give up. And for the first time in years, you're welcoming your future with open arms. So with all that in mind, let's talk about how you can get Arthro MD today. First, you should know that my entire staff and I take great pride in the products we produce. We have an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau and a satisfaction user rating hovering at around 96%, a near perfect score. That's because we absolutely refuse to cut any corners, which means you're guaranteed a premium state-of-the-art product that actually does what it claims to do. As such, we spared no expense when formulating Arthro MD. All of its ingredients are patented, trademarked, or both, and they're clinically tested and proven to work. And one of them has to be imported directly from Spain because that's the only laboratory in the world that makes them. Bottom line, quality like this doesn't come cheap. In fact, I'm sure you'll agree that nothing worth having comes cheap. However, when you compare the price of Arthro MD with the dozens, if not hundreds of formulations containing outdated generic ingredients that give you less than impressive, if any, results, it will seem like a bargain. And given the lack of real solutions for joint discomfort, we could easily offer this at a very high price. And you know what? I'm quite certain that customers would still be happy with it. Think about it. How much would you be willing to invest in waking up feeling years younger, to spring out of bed each morning ready to tackle the day, to do whatever your heart desires, now that your nagging knees, sore hips, or stiff shoulders aren't holding you back? What would you be willing to spend if you were absolutely, positively sure this would work? $200? $300? $500? Let's be honest, you cannot put a price on your health and the freedom to live life on your terms. That's why we feel the retail value of this product is a steal at $150. It's affordable enough for most folks, while still allowing us to cover our costs and eke out a small profit. However, our goal with Arthro MD is to put it into the hands of people everywhere who deserve to live a life without suffering. And since our licensing agreement with our ingredient suppliers prevents us from selling Arthro MD in stores, we cut out all middlemen and made it available only on our website. It was either that or forgo the project altogether. So here's how you benefit. We're able to make our ultra premium product and pass the savings on to you. That means you don't need to invest $150 to turn back the clock on your tired knees, hips, shoulders, or any other joint that may be bothering you. In fact, you don't need to invest $125 or even $100. That's because we can offer Arthro MD for just $69.95. That's more than 50% off its retail value. But that's not all. Because you've made it this far into the presentation, it's obvious you're serious about your health, and you're interested in seeing how this one-of-a-kind solution can help you the same way it's helping thousands of others. Which is why I want to give you the opportunity to try this new formulation at a special price, available only through this video. And I'll tell you what that is in a moment, but first, please make me this one promise. Promise me you'll send us your success story once you put this product to the test. Now, how can I be so confident you'll have great news to share after trying Arthro MD? Simple. While many users report noticeable relief in as little as a week, the real magic happens when you take it for 60 days or more. That's because Arthro MD ingredients build up in your body, continuously nourishing and nurturing your joints for optimal health. Which means the longer you take Arthro MD, the better you feel. Think of it like compound interest. Every morning you take Arthro MD, you deposit money into your bank account, and the balance keeps growing. First, a little at a time, but then faster and faster, and before you know it, you're sitting on a nice nest egg. Well, the same thing happens with your joints. Each time you invest in your health by taking Arthro MD, you feel a bit better. You start doing things you were once forced to give up. This speeds up your recovery even more, and as you continue taking Arthro MD and staying active, your progress improves exponentially. Next thing you know, you're sending us an email raving about your results. Just like Marilyn Dickey from Wetumpka, Alabama, who wrote in to say, "I can hardly believe it. I've been able to start back walking daily, and I've not been able to do that in months and months. I'm walking 2-3 miles daily now with no ill effects." And Kate Gilbert from Athens, Alabama, who says, "I'm 73 and feel like running all over the place again. My kids say I outwalk them in Walmart." And Robert Henninger from Castle Rock, Colorado, who said, "Great timely relief exceeding expectations. Signed up for the monthly delivery program, back to walking the dog and hiking, 81 years old." Now, considering our most successful customers like Robert take Arthro MD month after month, I'd like to suggest what I believe is a huge win-win. Here's what it's all about. By shipping to you in bulk rather than sending you one bottle at a time, we can cut down our costs, and we pass these savings on to you. So, not only do you pay less for each bottle of Arthro MD, you also have plenty on hand for maximum relief month after month. Plus, you don't have to worry about running out and potentially ruining your progress. For instance, when you opt for our most popular 2-bottle package, we'll send you another bottle absolutely free. That's a $69.95 value. It even comes with free shipping, so you won't spend a dime to get your delivery. Now, maybe you have a large family, or maybe you've been dealing with joint issues for some time, or maybe you just like to be prepared. Today, that's more important than ever. That's why more and more of our customers are choosing to invest in a larger pack of 3 bottles, which comes bundled with an additional 2 bottles absolutely free. And they love that it saves them an extra $139.90, because they're getting 6 bottles, a 6-month supply for the price of 4. Which means each bottle works out to only $46.63 and a savings of 33%. Just $1.33 to get a relief you desire and deserve. But please note, this is the only place you'll find Arthro MD at such a low price. This deal is not available on Amazon or anywhere else. The only way to get Arthro MD for about $1 a day is right from this page. So don't hesitate to stock up and save. However, as with any great deal, there is a catch. Look, I hate to be so pushy, but due to extremely limited supply, I can't guarantee this offer will be available if you choose to leave this page and come back later, in which case you'll be waiting for our next batch to be ready before you're able to try it, and most likely at a higher price. So, I urge you to stock up today for maximum savings. And know this, Arthro MD comes with a hassle-free money-back guarantee, so if you're not thrilled by how it's changed your life, by how it's made everyday simple tasks, well, simple again, and how it's allowed you to once again enjoy the things your sore joints forced you to give up, I insist you send it back within 365 days and we'll promptly issue you a full refund. No hassles and no hard feelings. I know you may have had negative experiences with other joint health solutions in the past, so I wanted to take all the risk out of it for you and have you give it a fair try. Yes, you can even send back the empty bottles and we'll still refund your money. Just get in touch with our friendly customer support staff and they'll be glad to assist you. Our contact information is right on the receipt that comes with your package. I'll make sure you're taken care of quickly because that's the way we like to do business. I want your experience with my company to be a good one. Again, if you're not 100% satisfied, let's say overjoyed, Arthro MD gives you relief, just return the empty bottles and I'll refund every penny of your purchase price, meaning you'll have gotten to try this revolutionary formula absolutely free. So click the button below. If the order page appears, you're in luck. We still have some in stock. If not, please add yourself to our waiting list and we'll let you know when more products are available. But keep in mind the price will likely be back to its retail value. Now, if we still have products in stock, consider the multi-bottle option to save the most money. And when you do, you'll be taken to our secure server, which is encrypted with the latest SSL 256-bit security for your total privacy and protection. That's the same security that major e-commerce giants like Amazon.com use. Simply enter your order information and we'll rush ship your supply of Arthro MD in a discreet package for maximum privacy. Now, as I mentioned earlier, there's a small catch to this internet-only offer. The one thing I suggest you not do is delay. You see, it can take up to 6 months for us to receive a new batch of Arthro MD. For instance, the main ingredients come from the Mediterranean. And sure, this delays things considerably, but it's worth it since the ingredients come from a place where, thanks to choice foods and healthy diets, many people live past 100. Now, once the ingredients are ready, they get rigorously tested by the European Union to ensure purity and potency. Next, they're shipped across the Atlantic and held for several weeks at customs for further quality control by the FDA. Finally, they're released to our contract manufacturer here in the USA for encapsulation and bottling. The finished product is then sent to a third-party lab for even more testing, and we will receive it to our warehouse here in Dallas until it passes all tests. As you can see, that's a lot of steps, and many people involved. But all this is necessary to ensure you get the highest joint health supplement that's safe and actually works. However, with everything going on in the world right now, our distribution is a bit fragile. And with rising demand, Arthro MD is often on back order. Therefore, if you decide not to try it today, I can't promise it'll be available later. Look, thousands of people across the country just like you are rediscovering what it's like to wake up feeling years younger. Happy to enjoy their favorite pastimes, be it golfing, gardening, or playing with their grandkids, and heck, not feeling like everything's a chore because of a sore hip, nagging knee, or whatever joint issue is stopping them from living their best life. Now, because you're watching this right now, we likely still have some Arthro MD ready to ship. So when you click the button below, don't forget to look at the multi-bottle packages. These are your best deals to save the most money. Plus, you'll have plenty of Arthro MD on hand for the next several months and not risk running out while we work hard to prepare our next batch. That's why I urge you not to wait if you're still on the fence. Remember, you're protected by our 365-day full money-back guarantee, which means you can rest easy while you put this revolutionary product to the test and only then decide. See for yourself why thousands are raving about Arthro MD and how it's helping them live their best lives into their 60s, 70s, 80s, and even 90s. I want to offer you a sincere thank you for watching this presentation today, and congratulations for taking what I'm confident will be a tremendous step toward living life without suffering. If you're still on the fence, I'd like to ask you to do me one last small favor. I want you to take a moment to imagine what will happen if you decide not to take action now. For instance, you may decide to keep looking around at various options. This decision-making process might drag on for weeks or even months. But while you're being thorough, carefully considering all your choices, in the meantime, your joint health will continue going downhill. Believe me, I've seen far too many people who are desperate for any solution besides surgery come to us for advice and disappear for months before finally returning with their problem having worsened. Because deep down, they just couldn't pull the trigger on taking action. Maybe they were hesitant to make a change, or maybe they were just secretly hoping it would somehow get better on its own. Whatever the reason, I can assure you that standing pat and letting more time pass is not a solution. In fact, it's the opposite of one. Because every day that goes by, your joints could become weaker and the aches could get worse. And when your body is constantly hurting, stopping you from doing all the things you once could, it can make you feel old too. You may continue to feel restricted by your choices of where not to go and what not to do. Instead, now is your opportunity to have that freedom to enjoy whatever your heart desires. With our 365-day full money-back guarantee, there's obviously no risk to trying this revolutionary solution that can give you your life back. The most wonderful feedback I've gotten from customers I've been lucky enough to help is an experience that I've heard time and time again. It's a phenomenon I call the first day, because in each and every one of these stories, they all use those 3 words when describing it. The first day is usually the day they'll realize for the first time that they haven't been thinking about their achy joints. They're not worrying about needing to rest or scared of causing more damage. You see, when you're not worrying about a problem that's been chronically nagging you, your mind is freed up to think about other things and experience life in a way that's been eluding you for who knows how long. It's almost like realizing a headache you've had for days has finally gone away. Simply put, you're now a happier person. In the end, that's the reason I got into this business in the first place. because there's nothing more rewarding than seeing what happens to people when you help them achieve the health and happiness they deserve. Please click on the button below to try Arthro MD for yourself right now. We guarantee you'll be satisfied or you don't pay. It's that simple. Thank you so much for watching. I'm honored to be trusted with your joint health needs.